Good afternoon everybody, and welcome to another Christmassy themed demonstration. Today I'm going to demonstrate a garland, a foliage garland. I'm going to use blue spruce, Pinus nobilis and some holly. But I'm going to wire into that some other items such as some cones, some lemon slices which have been dried, some cinnamon and some bows. I'm also going to attach some lights at the end just to give it that little bit of added twinkle. Okay, so best thing to do is to get as prepared as you possibly can. So I've cut my foliage up into fairly reasonably small size pieces, easy to handle. I'm going to wire my cones up. Now the best way to do that is to place the wire around the base of the cone, bring the two ends together and form a double leg mount. Okay, I'll just repeat that with another one. So place the wire around the base of the cone, bring the ends of the wire together and twist, forming the two legs of wire there that can then be bound into the garland. So that's your cones. With the cinnamon, I'm taking 3 little tiny pieces of cinnamon. You can glue those together if you find it easier to handle, but on this occasion I'm not going to worry. I'm just going to bind them with some raffia, tie them together into a little bundle, trim the ends of the raffia, and then in order to secure that into the wreath, same principle as we had with the cone, just slide the wire through the raffia, bring the two ends together of the wire and twist, and then that can then be wired into the garland. With the orange slices, or in this case the ones I've got here are actually lemon slices, so they have a nice green skin around the outside. Now all of the items that I am showing you here this afternoon are available on our website. That's www.trianglenursery.co.uk. And if you make sure you order your fresh items and your sundry items together, they can all come in the one consignment, so you just pay the one delivery charge. Okay, so the lemon slices, just threading the wire through one, then the second one, bring the ends of the wire together and twist, and you can slightly separate them once you place them in the arrangement or the garland if you wish to. Okay, so just repeat that with a few more. Now if you can hear us loud and clear, hit that like button and let us know where you're listening from this afternoon. Here in Martlesham in Suffolk this afternoon, it's quite a chilly, frosty afternoon, so let us know if you're enjoying sunshine and what you're up to this afternoon. So just finishing wiring a few of those lemon slices. Okay. And then the other thing I thought might be rather nice to include is some bows. I'm just going to make some very simple figure 8 bows with this lovely tartan ribbon. Now it is wired, as you can see on the edge, so it's quite easy to make a bow with. You can keep that shape quite happily with it being wired. I'm just going to do a very simple figure 8. So scrunch the ribbon in the middle, fold it away from yourself and then back under again. So hence, don't know if you can see where the figure 8 comes from. So you've got the 8 shape there. That's ribbon scissors. Cut that And the same principle again with the wire, twist it round the middle, bring the two ends together, and then that's ready to pop into the garland or arrangement or wreath or whatever it is that you're making. Okay, so just make a couple more of those. So again, simple scrunch in the middle, fold the ribbon away from yourself to form a loop, and then back under to make the second loop, creating that figure 8, and trim the ribbon, pop a wire around the centre where you've scrunched it in the middle, bring the two wires together and twist, and there you have your figure 8 bow. Do one more of those. So twisting away from yourself and then underneath, scrunching in the middle, and secure with the wire. Okay, so to start the garland, determine how long you want the garland to be and then measure that with either a stay wire or a piece of string. I'm actually using twine on this occasion as it's biodegradable, but you can use whatever you want, just to keep that length in mind. I normally start with a loop one end, and I'll double tie that. Then you've got that nice loop to actually hook the garland onto. As I say, measure how long you want the garland to be. For our purposes this afternoon, I'm not doing a hugely long one, but give you the general idea on how to start it. And then obviously you want a loop at the other end as well.
I am fairly quiet here today, but we have actually got people joined us today. We've got Debbie Ann in Harwich, not so sunny in Harwich. We've got Paula in Oxfordshire, and we've got Sharon in Prescott in Liverpool. It's quite sunny there. And we've also got Eileen and Marianne, so we've got quite a few commenting.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. I hope you've got something nice to drink while you're watching. Hopefully you're not too busy, so you're able to actually watch at leisure. Okay, so got our little loop on our stay wire. And I'm going to start by securing my first piece of foliage, which is going to be the blue spruce. So tying that nice and securely with a double knot, just so that it's anchored to my binding twine. Then we will add that onto, oops,
Just going to move it closer.
tie that onto the starting loop. Whoops, all fingers and thumbs here this afternoon. I blame it on my hands being so cold. Okay, so, oops. Basically what I'm trying to do is just secure the first piece of foliage to the stay knot that we put on the guide string. Obviously you want to make sure you keep them separate. So here we go. So bear in mind that's your loop, and then now we can make a start. So need to bind the foliage onto the stay wire or string. And I tend to work with the string going away from myself. So in this effect, similar idea to when you're mossing or binding foliage onto a wreath really. I'm going to add my next piece of foliage, nice and tightly. And I'm going to start to add some interest into it by adding different foliage. So this is Pinus strobus. There's not really any hard or firm recipe on the type of foliage that you use. Any evergreens are ideal. Ivy, pine, conifer, even buxus works quite well in this kind of garland, excuse me. Now, so you can see I'd prepared a few pieces of foliage earlier, so it's much easier if you've got them all prepared so you can just bind them straight in. Bear in mind you need to keep your stay wire slightly separate so that doesn't get tangled up in your binding wire. So I'm now going to add the florist's favourite, and that's holly. Wouldn't really be Christmassy without some holly. So if you've got any questions whilst I'm doing this, please feel able to ask, and we'll try our very best to answer them as best we can. Now something like this ideally needs to be made up the day before you want to place it really. So as you can appreciate, the foliage is out of water, so it's going to have a reasonably short lifespan. So leaving it as late as possible to the time you require it is the best policy.
What if you're making it for to decorate your home at Christmas?
If you're making it to decorate at Christmas, like anything that's fresh, it is going to deteriorate once it's put into a warm domestic environment. It will still survive, it will just start to dry out. And what you will find is as it dries out and the stems start to become a little bit dried and reduce in size, you might find you get an occasional piece of foliage fall out because it just gets dry and crispy. But there's not really any alternative. You can spray it, you can keep it nice and wet by spraying, but it's just one of those things really. It's unavoidable really. But yeah, ideally make it up as late as you possibly can.
What foliage is not recommended to make a garland with?
I would probably not use the softer foliage. I would probably avoid some of the eucalyptus because that dries very quickly in a warm domestic environment once it's actually out of water. So anything that's a little bit softer, maybe not quite so hardy as the evergreens and the Christmassy style foliage. Eucalyptus does have a beautiful fragrance and it does have a lovely colour and shape. It does say it does dry out quite quick.
We've got Eileen asking a question. So it says, can you dry fruit slices yourselves? And if so, how do you do it?
Okay, so I have done it in the past. I've just sliced the fruit, laid them on a baking tray and put them into an oven that was on a high temperature and then turned down and switched off, and then just put them in the oven to dry. I have known people to do them in the microwave. It's not something that I've ever done, but I have known them to do it in the microwave. But yeah, there is no reason why you can't do it yourselves.
Is it quite a long and tedious procedure, or?
It's not long and tedious. It's not overly easy to get the dry heat to dry them out quickly enough before they start to cook or go soggy. Yeah, so yeah, it can be done, but it is not the easiest of practice. Well, not in my experience anyway. I have to be honest, I've always cheated and got mine ready bought, ready done. So just getting a bit tangled up here. Just want to, there we go. So this is still my stay wire, and this is the wire that I'm binding the foliage with, and that's it, back on track. I'm using the blue spruce to give me the nice heavy base. The stems are nice and firm on that, so they actually give you quite a decent bit of structure to hold the garland into place. As you can see. Obviously, if you are using foliage, well, it's not obvious at all, but if you are using foliage that you've got from your garden, I would recommend that you condition it before you make it into the garland, simply so it's as rehydrated as it possibly can be before you hang it. So I'd probably give it 48 hours drink before you work with it. Right, just adding another piece of the blue spruce in here.
Helen always PVAs her slices after they're dried.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, that's a really good idea. Yeah, stops them from disintegrating and deteriorating. Yeah, very good. It acts as like a sealant. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, Helen.
Yeah, brilliant.
Good tip.
How does Helen dry them? Does she do them in the oven?
Helen, how do you dry them?
Do you do them in the oven? Or do you do them in the microwave? Or I have known them also to be done in the Arga, but not everybody has an Arga, so.
Paula says she's tried it in a slow oven, but the price they sell it for I would buy, and they last a lot longer.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's not a cheap option to go and buy fruit to just slice up. So yeah.
And I suppose if it goes wrong, then you've got to get more.
Indeed. Indeed.
Maybe go to the market. Slightly cheaper. Helen says, yep, the same as you, oven.
Cool. It might, to be fair, it might just be that I'm not a very patient person. So. Okay, so we're wiring or binding the rest of these pieces of foliage in. Need to add some more holly. Now this piece of holly I've got here is a slightly too large a sprig for me to use in one go, so I'm just going to cut that in half and add that, and be very delicate about how I hold it. Binding in to the garland with the holly, if you can actually bind in between the leaves will actually help to keep the piece of holly in place, as you can see. Now I need to add some more pieces. I'm just going to collect some more blue spruce from the floor and just cut, just to show you how I'm cutting that into smaller manageable pieces. As you can see, it's quite a sturdy stem, that. Try and clear these pieces away so you can see where I've got up to. Now you probably do need to make this on a long table or a long trestle, because you are going to need space to slide it along. So
oh, Anne said, my hubby put the oven back on to warm himself a meat pie and then burnt her orange slices. Oh no.
Yeah, my husband would probably do the same. Yeah. Not good, not good. Still, I should imagine the oven smelled lovely with all the citrus fragrance. Just move that stay right around. So, binding in another piece of the blue spruce. do try and pull it as tight as you possibly can, because that just helps to keep it all bound together. Adding some more of the pinus now. So all of those people that are out there watching us this afternoon, let us know what you're doing. Are you preparing for Christmas? Are you making holly wreaths or getting decorations ready? Share with us what you're doing. I'd love to hear what you're making, and do send us pictures of what you're making as well. We'd like to see what everybody else is doing as well. Okay. And if you can hear us loud and clear, obviously hit that like button, and we know you're out there. Right. Adding more of my blue spruce. Nice and tightly. There is a beautiful Christmassy fragrance coming out from the workroom this afternoon. Just need mulled wine and mince pies and we're there. You've probably noticed, if you've been watching us on previous occasions, here at Triangle our thoughts tend to drift towards food and drink quite regularly.
Who blames us, really?
So adding in a bit more of that. Yeah, totally. Right. There's not really any need to keep the long stalks in the garland, so I am trimming those off and then placing that in. You can probably hear a lot of background noise this afternoon. We're working against the fans from the cold store, and I have a colleague who's working in the workroom with me this afternoon who's trying to be as quiet as a little mouse, and she's working on a wedding that we've got on Sunday. So all hands on deck here this afternoon at Triangle. Lovely time of the year to get married, leading up to Christmas. Romance in the air. Oops, just got a bit tangled there. Let me untangle that. Now what you might find a good tip actually is, when you're making a garland like this, perhaps use a stay wire in a slightly different colour to your binding wire. Then you might find it a little bit easier not to get them tangled like I have on a couple of occasions this afternoon. This bit's a bit unruly. I'm just going to give that a bit of a haircut and add some more of my blue spruce. Now, as you can see how we progress, and obviously continue doing that for as far as you need to get the length of garlands that you desire. Just so you can see how it works, I'll hold up what we've done so far. Perhaps if I lay it down that way you might be able to see better. Is that okay, Laura? Yeah? Okay. So I'm going to stop putting some bits and pieces. I'm stopping the foliage now. I'm going to start adding into it the accessories, just so you can see how that's done. Now it very much depends on how full you want it to look with the accessories. So I'm going to grab the bits that I've wired previously. Oops, chucking them on the floor. So we've got our cones, we've got our cinnamon, we've got our bows and our orange or lemon slices. Okay, so I'm going to start with my cinnamon, and it's really simple process of just wiring them onto the garland. And I would just trim any of the wires that are protruding and fold the wires back on themselves so they don't hurt you if you happen to touch them. Exactly the same principle with the cones. I'm actually binding the wire around the natural stem. And what you can also do is actually bind two pieces of foliage together when you're wiring the accessories in. That just helps to add extra stability of keeping everything all bound together. And as I mentioned before, because the ribbon is wired, you can actually tweak it and make it into whatever shape you want it to be. Orange slices next. So as I say, the double leg mount either side of the piece of greenery, and then bound and twist it underneath. And the orange slices or lemon slices can actually be opened up to make them look a little bit more attractive. Then you can see I'm making this one quite full. You don't have to make it as full as this. It's all down to whatever you prefer and whatever you're trying to achieve. This one's quite a natural, sort of traditional garland. I mean, you could add sparkly items into it, you could add sparkly lights into it, all down to personal choice really. So 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, so it needs another lot of, just trying to keep it fairly balanced so you get a good aesthetic balance.
We've got Debbie making some arrangements for Christmas. She's making table arrangements with candles, wreaths for the cemetery and a wreath for her front door just before Christmas Eve.
Lovely. I hope you're keeping nice and warm, Debbie, because it's jobs like this that are a little bit chilly this time of the year.
Just turned it around. Sorry guys. I just turned it around on me.
Doing a selfie there, Laura.
Yeah. Luckily I wasn't in it.
So you can see how we're building up this garland. Bringing along, I don't know if you can see that very successfully. Let me turn that over. So you can see what we're trying to achieve. And as I mentioned earlier, because you've got that little loop, that will actually help you to anchor that to something. So just trying to keep that balance of foliage and accessories all the way through.
What gauge of wire have you used to?
This is actually, I've used two different gauges here. I've used on the slightly heavier items such as the cinnamon and the cones. I've used a 0.91. On the ribbon and the lemon slices, I've used a 0.71. No, sorry, 0.90, I beg your pardon. A 0.90 on those and a 0.71 on these. I've used a 280 length, but you don't have to use a 280 because you can cut it in half.
Why have you used the difference? Is it just because of the heavier?
That's right, because of the weight. Yeah, absolutely. The cinnamon slices, cinnamon sticks even. Cinnamon sticks and the cones are actually quite heavy, whereas there's hardly any weight at all for the lemon slices and the ribbon. So a lighter gauge is more than adequate. Plus the fact you don't want to add too much extra weight to the garland, especially if you're hanging it. It's literally going to be quite difficult to pick up if it's too heavy. There we go. Just add another cone on this side. I'll just wire that round. So, hopefully you're all looking forward to Christmas. If you are looking forward to Christmas and you can't wait, hit that love button. And if you've enjoyed us this afternoon, hit that love button as well. Okay, so that's how you form, ouch, Holly, that's how you form a garland. I'm not going to finish it off because it's exactly the same principle all the way through, and depending on how long you want it to be, just keep wiring and binding, and it's the same principle. But that's how it can look when it's finished. Alright, I hope you've enjoyed watching us this afternoon. Do subscribe to our YouTube channel, where there's lots more tips and hints on festive arrangements, preparation, how to get the best of your cut flowers leading up to making an arrangement. And please join us again. Do keep the questions coming, and do please send in any pictures of stuff that you've made up. So thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Have a good weekend.